And he told us both that he would have none of it, and we have to find a way out. After which we joined a meeting with the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, where all parties were represented. And it was decided that a resolution, parliamentary resolution, will be adopted. And we worked on the text. It's another matter that the opposition then was very keen that we should condemn the American action. So in Hindi we did that. We said, Ninda karte hain. But in English we said we deplore the American action. That was a compromise which was worked out.
Very fond of Kadi Ninda for some time.
But the point I'm making is that Vajpayee was distressed that Parliament was being disrupted, and he wanted Parliament to function. He was very keen that Parliament should function, and he was a great parliamentarian, there is no doubt about it. So therefore, when did he fail the test of parliamentary democracy? I really don't know, because I myself was a late entrant in the Bharatiya Janata Party, and I would say that in my experience in that party, for as long as I was there was no occasion where the fundamentalist character of Vajpayee would come forth. Even after the destruction of the Babri Mosque, I remember there was a meeting, and everyone in that meeting was completely crestfallen. I remember there was a petitions committee of the Rajya Sabha which Vajpayee was leading, and I was a member, and we were traveling in Gujarat, and he was very, very unhappy. Very, very unhappy, even to the extent of leaving the party. That was the stage at which he was very disappointed with the.
Which year was
it? Right.
That
after
will be
1992.
After 1992.
1992.
Yeah, and.
So you believe that whatever happened troubled him a great deal, because he remained at his heart a parliamentarian and abided by parliamentary
Not
laws.
only remained a parliamentarian, in order to be a good parliamentarian, you have to be a consensus builder.
Yeah.
Whether you are in opposition or you are in government, parliament, democracy indeed, must function on the basis of consensus.
Right.
Not on the basis of numbers all the time.
Right.
And I personally feel that Vajpayee was a great believer in the concept of consensus.
Of consensus and parliamentary consensus. And where does that, and compare it to today's parliament, and I know that you feel very strongly about this, what is going wrong? Is it that the ruling party doesn't believe in parliamentary processes? Is it the quality of the members of parliament who are coming into parliament? Is it that, a parliament is simply negligible to politics, because increasingly, in the era of the strongman leaders and the personality cults, you don't need parliament, you don't need a Nath Babu Pai or a Minu Masani or a Hirendranath Mukherjee, the great stalwarts of parliamentary debate, who won elections because of their parliamentary performance. Now you don't win elections because of parliamentary performance, you win it because of other factors. So do you think this is what is leading to the degradation of parliament, to a kind of sidelining of parliament?
Yeah, but Parliament has certainly been reduced in many ways to a sort of notice board for government decisions. The Anti-Defection Act, passed with the best intentions, hasn't helped, because unlike in the days when the people you mentioned, the Hiren Mukherjee in the 50s, Nath Pai in the 60s, and so on, were flourishing and winning national admiration, parliamentary debates have negligible, if in fact no impact on governmental decisions or bills. No suggestion made by the opposition is ever taken on board by the ruling party. Once they bring a bill, they crack the whip, the anti-defection law applies to everything. And they will get their quiescent majority to vote for whatever the bill may be about. And you will find this repeatedly, even on relatively non-politically contentious issues, where sensible suggestions may come from the opposition. There's no interest in that. And then, of course, there is an inherent flaw in the parliamentary system, which we've talked about,
written about,
which is that you elect a legislature in order to form the executive, which is a
Right.
fundamental violation of the basic
Right.
principle of separation of
Right.
powers. And in our country, this means in practice, coupled with the Anti-Defection
Right.
Act, that once you form the executive, the legislature is
That's it.
reduced to a rubber stamp because they have an automatic majority of anything they do. And if any of their own members dares to challenge them, the person can be expelled, not just from the ruling party, but from Parliament itself, so no one
Right.
does it. Even when our friend Shatrughan Sinha had decided to leave the BJP, he was careful during that last year or so never to vote against the party whip, because that could have resulted in his exit. So
Right.
there he was making public statements against his party and his government, but not saying so. And
Yes.
that's the way in which our system has reduced the individual parliamentarian to an irrelevance. I mean, the whole Burkean concept that you elect somebody and
That's
once you've
tragic,
elected them,
isn't
they should
it?
have the rights.
But then you also feel that, speeches aren't covered with as much interest. It's the media to blame. That the media doesn't pick up on the greats. I mean, you've made some stellar speeches, and I know that MPs often complain that the media simply doesn't report them, or is chasing sensation all the time, and is that a
Because the
problem?
media knows that this doesn't really matter, it doesn't bring
Doesn't
down
really
governments,
matter.
doesn't change laws. It's a good speech, watch it on YouTube, that's about it.
Yeah, just to put Shashi's point about about Vajpayee and a parliamentary majority, do you think if Vajpayee had 300 plus seats, would he also be a pluralist, or accommodating consensus builder, or would he be much more like today's dispensation?
He would never have been like today's dispensation, majority or no majority. No, he would have been the consensus man.
Still, if he had 300 plus
even
seats.
if he had 300 plus. And, talking about today's parliament, I mean, I would personally think that the whole ruling party erupting into Modi, the Prime Minister, right?
It's an embarrassment.
Ugliest scenes, I would say, of the Parliament of India, the Lok Sabha has.
Right.
I would never have imagined such a thing happening. In Parliament, you were talking of bugs and kumbugs. It appears as if there are only bugs and some few kumbugs like
Cumbugs. we're all cumbugs, I'm afraid.
No, but you know what?
But this
what's-
personality
I think
cloud-
Yashwant Saab is totally right. There is a genuine decline in parliamentary standards of behavior, and including in the simple process of reaching out. I mean, he mentioned how Vajpayee called the Parliamentary Affairs Minister and himself and asked him to fix it. Right?
Yeah.
We don't see the present Parliamentary Affairs Ministers and their ilk
Right.
ever reaching across the aisle in a very serious way.
Right.
And this has perhaps been a gradual descent into
Right.
into unpleasantness. I remember Dr. Manmohan Singh expressing in real time at that time his hurt when he wasn't allowed to introduce his cabinet because of the BJP disrupting at that time. So it's been a slow and steady spiral down, but it's now become absolute. And this kind of polarization, this kind of black and white inability to talk across the lines is deeply damaging.
And also
for
a
our
supremo
democracy.
cult, right? The supremo cult that exists. I mean, that Modi chant. Did Vajpayee resist being a supremo? Because you were a minister in Vajpayee's cabinet, and you've told me how much you were being attacked by the RSS when you were a minister, and you said the RSS was literally at your throat because of the kind of liberalization and the kind of
Particularly when you were finance minister.
When you were finance minister, and you had this. Mr. Yashwant Sinha has this wonderful story where when he was finance minister, and I've written it in the book, where the Swadeshi Jagran Manch, the Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, and the VHP were at Vajpayee's throat, and the Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, Dattopant Thengdi was on at a public rally, said Yashwant Sinha aparadhi hain. And tell us what happened then. I mean, Vajpayee was really supportive to you.
No, what happened was that I was going through the morning papers, and I came across this news item that at a rally at Jantar Mantar, Dattopant Thengdi had called me a criminal, an aparadhi.
Radhi.
And I saw this news report. I immediately got into my car, and that was a day, it was a Tuesday, I remember, and that's a day when the BJP parliamentary party meets before the session
Right.
of parliament starts. So I immediately spoke to Advani, and I said, there is no point in my continuing in government. This is how I am being described by the chief of Swadeshi Jagran Manch.